Welcome to the New Old Computer Show. Today will be a quick follow-up video on the Mac Plus servicing video that I did the other day. And today we will deal with servicing the floppy drive as well. These old Macs, they all have Sony-made floppy drives. The Sony made the original 400K drive. They did the double-sided double-density 800K drives. And they did the super drives, the early super drives for the old Macs. And they're all very well sturdily built drives, and they're relatively easy to service, all things considered. As with any old mechanism, such as, you know, if you are refurbishing an old car, you need to go in and clean and re-lubricate and put engine oil in and all that. And in the same fashion, floppy drive needs that kind of attention. And if you care for your floppy drive, the floppy drive will serve you very well for a long time. So this is the floppy drive right here. This is the Sony model MPF51W-03. And this is the later of the double-sided, double-density drives that Sony made for Apple. In order to refurbish one of these drives, you need just a pair of tweezers, some grease, and some kind of cleaning liquid. I like to use 99% IPA. It's also good to have an old pick like this. To open these up, you need to just unhook two little springs that sit on each side of the drive. And the other one. And then you want to trick it into thinking that it has a disc inserted. Push on one of the little levers here, like so. That will bring it down. And now you can gently lift out the top of the mechanism. You want to gently hold on to the upper reed head. And then gently wiggle this out. It can be a little bit fiddly, but usually comes out fairly easily. Top part is off. Next, you want to unscrew the eject motor. It just has two screws holding onto it. You lift up the eject motor, and there's a little connector on the back that you want to unplug. Comes off like so. And then next, there are four little plastic rings here. Little tabs that hold on to the sliding part of the mechanism. Here's where you can use a tool like this plastic pick to pop these out. It's fairly easy. You should just slide the tool underneath. Then twist and lift. And they all come off. Now you can lift this part off. And that should have revealed enough to clean the entire mechanism. So what you want to do first is to get rid of all of the grime and the dust. And you also want to clean up all the old grease. And it's a good idea to make note of where the grease originally was applied, because we want to reapply grease again to the same spots. wipe off these two micro switches. And of course, at this point, you want to clean the reed heads as well. So a word of warning here, you need to be very careful not to bend this reed head too much, because you may damage it permanently. I like to just put a little bit of alcohol on a Q-tip and then gently wipe off the reed heads. There's also this screw here that is connected to the reed head motor that moves the head up and down. And there's always a whole bunch of grease down there. So I like to just gently wipe off the nastiest of the old grease here, but not necessarily all of it. There's some sitting in the back there. Just lift that off. I know some people like to drown this little screw with IPA and just completely get rid of the old grease. But as long as it's not gummed up, I don't see a reason to do that. You can push on the head to move it back and forth a little. So I'm going to apply just a little bit of this grease. This is a M-Coat EM30L. I have been told that this is chemically very similar to the grease that Apple and Sony used. So what I like to do is to just take a used Q-tip and snip it in half with my flush cutters, and then just use that sharp end to just apply a little bit of grease here. The tiniest bit. We don't want this to be over greased and gum up easily again. So we apply some new grease to all the spots where we had some applied before. And we can clean the middle part. Just sprinkle some IPA on it and then wipe it down. And then we just grease the top part, all these little nooks and crannies. Then finally, let's clean the top part of the mechanism. Get all that dust and grime off. There's some big chunks of grease right here and here as well. That needs to be replaced. And then let's apply some grease. Don't forget these edges as well. So now all mechanical parts are adequately wiped off, cleaned, and re-greased. So let's turn our attention to the eject motor. So the eject motor housing looks a little bit different between different revisions of this floppy drive. But the most common is this one that we have right here, where we have the bottom metal plate held on by 4 or 5 little matte plastic clips here. And getting this open is as easy as grabbing onto the very top clip with your nail and then kind of bending it out. Just trying to grab onto underneath the metal cover. Try to get your nail underneath, and then it usually pops up right off like this. So here is where we have infamously yellow gear sitting right there. This gear is made of a different kind of plastic than the other gears. These gears are known to become very brittle with age and will eventually fall apart. And of course that renders this eject mechanism non-functional. So it's very easy to get down to that gear. You just lift this middle gear right up, like so. That exposes this gear. You can use your tweezers, for instance, to gently pry it up. So here it comes. So first of all, you want to just clean up a little bit inside here, get any debris. So here's some kind of, looks like a fiber strand. I'm not sure what that is. Take a fresh Q-tip and just wipe off any residue down there. You don't want to drown this in alcohols, because that can get into the motor and mess with the lubrication in there. So I just like to wipe off any old grease like this. There's some lubrication here from the factory. So get rid of that. And then people have made replacement gears for this. So one thing I like to do when I take these old gears out is to see just how fragile they are. So if I try to bend this, so this is this gear seems this gear seems to be in very good shape. So sometimes when these are in bad shape, they just crumble in your fingers. But this one still has elasticity and it does not break. So this is a case where it was not at all mandatory to replace this gear quite yet. It may work for many years to come. And I think it depends on the type of environment these machines are stored in, how these deteriorate. But as a preventive measure, let's install the new one anyways. Let's put just a tiny bit of this grease, a teeny tiny bit of this grease down here, not too much. It's a little bit on the metal gear that sits on the eject motor. Pun not intended. And then you just slide this back in with the big end downwards. And then pop this gear right on top. And then you put the cover on. And that gives you an assembled eject motor. So before we assemble this drive again, I just want to take a moment to inspect the PCB. So the controller PCB is partially revealed at this stage. And there are a number of components. Among them are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 through-hole miniaturized electrolytic caps. A viewer left a note in the comment section to the previous video suggesting that these drives may need a recap. And I've yet to see one of these early Sony drives that have any sort of electrolytic cap leakage going on. These automatic insert drives are from an era, I think, where even these miniaturized caps are fairly reliable. But it's still a good idea to look for signs of cap leakage just in case, because they may leak in the future, of course. For instance, I've serviced a TRS-80 Model 100, which is of a similar vintage, that make heavy use of these miniaturized through-hole caps, and I've seen those leak, and I've replaced a good number of those caps. But for these Sony drives, I don't feel the rush to do a recap on this. The later manual inject drives that were in broad use in Macs in the 90s, they have the type of surface mount electrolytic caps that do leak. So the later floppy drives, yes, absolutely, you need to recap them. For good measure, it's also good to put some contact cleaner into the two micro switches here. The one on the right tells the drive that a disk is injected, I believe, and the one on the left controls the read-only. Without further ado, let's reassemble the drive. So we want to put the middle part on, and then we drop in the eject motor. Then we have these 4 little rings. They need to be cleaned. Just drip some alcohol on them. The easiest way that I found to get these back on is to just put them on your thumb and then press straight down. They just pop right on. You leave a little hole in your thumb there, little depression, but it's not too bad. And here comes perhaps the trickiest part of this process, which is to finagle this top part on. And you need to first align maybe a little bit more grease on this part here, like so. And so you want to align the middle part so that the top part can slide. The little tabs on the side here, these 4 tabs can slide into the rails that they sit on. And at the same time you need to lift the top of the reed head up. And this is perhaps the part where it's easiest to damage the reed head, so be very careful, because the reed head's little notch here needs to sit on top of the plastic cover here. So you kind of wiggle it on there, and then you lift up the reed heads, top of the reed head, and then you slide it underneath. And there you go, it's on there. And then of course you need to reattach the springs, which can be a little bit fiddly. 1 spring there. You have the spring on the other side. There. Oops, popped off again. Here we go. Then we eject the mechanism, and we can try to insert a floppy disk. You can use this cleaning disc here, and it goes in. And just, after a successful clean and lubrication, you should have a very smooth insertion, like so. And when you eject it with the manual eject, the discs should pop almost right out like that. We need to also connect the eject motor again on its little header back there, like so. That is a fully serviced Sony double-sided, double-density, Apple customized automatic insert, automatic eject floppy drive. Now let me demonstrate what the eject sound sounds like after changing to a different gear. So there you have it, 1 serviced Sony floppy drive. If you like this video, don't hesitate to push that like button and subscribe to my channel. I will keep making videos about old computer projects. So thank you for watching and have a great rest of your day. Bye.